All right, so we're not actually going to be done. So I was hoping I could just leave this, but I'm finding a lot of instability. Essentially, what I'm seeing and have seen happen multiple times now is that this range of chips here, I'm guessing there's probably something wrong with the board. I seriously doubt that many chips all in a row just happen to go bad. But because some of these are still online, it's showing crazy temperature swings, sometimes really negative like right now, sometimes like, 150 positive, even though I repasted these. Or I just repasted them just to see if that was the issue. The voltages are all over the place. So I think there's a problem with this section of the board. And unfortunately, what I'm noticing this is doing is essentially the firmware tries to get everything under control by underclocking all the rest of the cards on that firmware, on that board. So all these other boards are running at the 950, as you can see. And board 3 right now, it's dropped it all the way down to 550, and it'll find a spot where it's stable, but eventually, once it finds a stable point, it will, after a period of like an hour or two, try to re-put these back up. And unfortunately, what happens when it does that is all these things start spiking again, especially the temps on 2 of these chips, and it knocks the board offline. So the whole board. I'm guessing it's a failsafe in the firmware. I'm not really sure. So my current thinking is essentially that maybe I can find a way to figure out what chips these are on the actual board and remove them. They're all problematic. Yeah, there might be 2 in here that are fine, or maybe they are all fine and it's really the board. But if this is a bad section of the board, if I remove these, I'm thinking I can run 48 chips without issue. The other 48 will run at the 950 no problem. It only starts underclocking the whole board when these start to run into issues. So I think if I just straight up remove the chips, I may be able to get the majority of this board stable and operating. The first step I'm going to have to do is to figure out where these chips are on the board. I looked online, no one seems to know exactly where these are. So I think what I'm going to have to do is a known working board like board 2. I'm going to essentially take the paste off a couple of these to try and figure out where they are, and run it ever so briefly just so I can start figuring out where certain chips are. And then, because I obviously can't figure that out on this board because, well, they're dead. So, or not reporting properly or anything like that. So I don't know if just removing the paste is really going to help me find these. So I'll find them on a board that works, and then on the board that doesn't work, I will then remove the chips is what I'm thinking. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. It's kind of showing up that way on the dashboard. Essentially, what will happen after a restart is we'll get up in hash rate, and then the hash rate will start dropping. And that's as it lowers the clocks on that one board. You can even see that in the temperature. The temperature is way down. It'll probably sit for about another hour at this low clock mode until the firmware tries to re-engage those chips and up their clock to what it thinks they should be. Essentially, like I said, I think the firmware is just like, oh, it's been running stable for 2 hours. That means it should be able to go back up and clock. And when it does that, it inherently just crashes the board. So, yeah, I'm going to, again, start to figure out where these chips are. Oh, and you can see that there. It just changed on here. You can see, like, these chips that were completely offline are suddenly reporting, and reporting like you saw that live, like 151, now it's 71, but the voltage is through the roof. Again, I just think there's something wrong with this section of the board. So if I can salvage the rest of the board and gain some stability, There it goes again, back up to 151. I mean, negative 68 degrees, not even possible. So if I remove these chips, I think the firmware will just zero them out. Like, it'll just assume they're completely off, and therefore it'll be able to operate more successfully. I mean, look at these clocks now, 350. I mean, it's trying to find a stable point, and it's just not going to, because of how unstable these chips are that are still operating, but clearly not operating properly. So I'm thinking if they're all just gone, that it'll bring some stability to the board. So I'm gonna get going on this endeavor to find those chips, and I guess that'll help others who have been asking the same question, like, where is chip 56? So we're gonna get into that and get going. All right, so I got the heatsink off one of the boards. So I have two different thoughts here. Either the chips go in sequence like side to side, and there's like just 4 rows, and one of those rows is, you know, up to 56, which in that case I'm going to guess is the bottom row. So that's where I'm going to start. The other thing, though, is you can see the tracing wires. They go up and down. So it's also possible that, like, chip 1 is here, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I don't really have any way to know that initially on how these are popping up. So I think the best strategy is to essentially and this is a working board, so that's why this should work. If I take the paste off, say this one, the very last one, then 1 2 down from it, and then 1 3 down from there, so there's a gap of 1 and 2, I should at least be, if they are in sequence this way, that'll help me know what way it counts on the board. Like, if this is, you know, 1 up to whatever that way, or if it's going this way. Now, so that would help me eliminate most options for if it's this way, other than if this is not row 56, or row with 50 ending in 56, I won't know that, but I'll at least know where it should be in line. Now, if I do that unpasting in that method, and then it actually goes this way, there should still be a larger gap between this one in this reporting software than this one to this one. So that's why I'm doing uneven spacing. Now, I'm not saying this is the best way to do it. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it. This is just how I've kind of thought would make the most sense. So I'm going to take off the thermal paste on those 3 chips I pointed out. And then we're going to put the heatsink back on and, you know, fire this up, and hopefully I can find the hot chips in the reporting software. But yeah, so let me get this paste off, and then we'll get to trying this out. All right. So you can see I removed the thermal paste on those 3 chips. I also removed it from those 3 spots on the heatsink. So those chips will no longer have proper cooling at all, so they should overheat pretty quickly. So I'm definitely not going to want this to run for very long, but I need to run it long enough that I can actually figure out what chips those are in the software. So we're going to put this heatsink back on, throw this on the rack, and I guess hopefully find out what chips these are. I looked at all the labeling on these and nothing. There is nothing that says what chip number these are, like on the board. Trial and error. So, like I said, I'm going to put the heatsink back on, and I probably should repaste all these, but I'm not going to do that until I'm done this experiment, because I might have to take this on and off a bunch of times if I don't get the answers I'm hoping for. So, be right back after a few moments. All right, got it back on the rack, ready to go with our 3 chips that have no paste. We're gonna try and keep this short. Don't really want to destroy more chips. So let's head on over to the computer, see if we can find these 3 chips. All right. So there's our answer. So I guess that bottom right corner is not what I thought. We're getting 90. These 3 chips are now on fire. So it looks like one was 39, one's 34, and one's 30. is kind of weird. I don't really know what that means, but they're not the numbers I expected. So back to the drawing board. All right, guys. So those numbers didn't come back what I expected, but I just noticed when I took this apart again, these trace lines do not continue to the upper part of the board. So the zigzags aren't giant like the full board. They're just this bottom half. So obviously it's not sequential this way, because if that was the case, this would be like 30, 32, and like 35, but I got 30, 34, and 39. So that means it has to be, at least the only thing I can think of, is this chip here is 29. So to start off the second half of the board, there's 28 chips on each half of the board. So 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. So it appears that it's zigzagging this way, starting at this point for the bottom half of the board. So following that logic, this would be 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. So these are the chips on my bad board that are probably having the problem. Now, again, I can't confirm that on the bad board because they don't work. So I'm going to repaste these 3 chips and unpaste what I think now are the bad chips. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to repaste these, and then I'm going to unpaste the chips that align with the bad numbers on the bad board. So, be right back. So we're in the software now, and it looks like I am correct. There we go. Just updated. So we got 49, 51, 54, and 56. Perfect. So we have found our bad section on our other board. I'm going to repaste these before they catch on fire. And actually, I'm going to figure out the upper half of the board too, because I know plenty of people have been asking for where these chips are. So we're on the top side of the board now. I forgot that I ran out of paste the other day, so these still have the factory paste, so replace that. And I'm going to leave this chip and this chip blank. So again, since it's clearly quadrant based, I'm not 100% sure. You know, this one goes low to high. Does this one also go to low to high? And like 1 is down here, and what would be 28 is down here? Or is it flipped reverse? So we ended with 56 right here, and this is 1, and then 2 and 3. So that's why I can't do both quadrants, because say I cleared some over here right now, I wouldn't be able to determine in the software what one's what. I know that I'm going to get, if I did some over here and some here, there's going to be 4 chips from 1 through 28 that are hot. And that doesn't really help me determine what quadrant is 1 through 14 and what quadrant is 15 through 28. So I'm guessing 1 and 3 are going to be my hot chips in the software, but I could be wrong. You know, this could be 28 and this could be 27. Again, don't really know, so we're going to try it out for you guys. Since I'm already at this, might as well figure it all out. So be right back once we get this board back into the... And look at that, right on the money. Those are chips 1 and 3. So we're almost to the bottom of this. We just need to figure out the last quadrant. I have a pretty good hunch what it is at this point, but I do want to confirm so that there's no errors. So let me do this one more time, and we'll have all the chips figured out. All right, one last time. Repasted those. Got these. I'm pretty sure this is going to be chip 28, and this will be chip number 26. But we'll find out for sure here in a moment. And there it is. 26 and 28 are now the hot chips. So I think we've successfully pretty much mapped the board. Again, I didn't do every single chip, so I guess there could be some crazy outlier to this, but it seems like I figured out the pattern. I'm going to post it in Greater Good Mining's Discord. Hopefully I'll draw up the diagram, and hopefully that'll help you guys going forward. So we're going to turn this off and now move into part 3 because this is a very long video. So we're going to break this up into 3 parts. So part 3 is going to be attempting to get that last board operating properly by removing chips 49 through 56 from operation. So that's what we got for now. Until next time.